Welcome to the Top Advisor Podcast, brought to you by Proud Mouse Pod Rocket Academy. I'm your host, Bill Cates, creator of the Cates Academy for Relationship Marketing. In each episode, I interview one of our industry's top performers, getting them to pass on their secrets to success to you, so that you can impact more lives and generate more income. Now, on to the show. Welcome. Before we get started, I want to let you know about a guide I've created that brings together some of my latest thinking in the area of referrals, introductions, communicating your value. And while the guide is free, I still think you'll find it quite valuable. Go to exponentialgrowthguide.com. That's exponentialgrowthguide.com. Whenever I speak to a financial advisor who works with professional athletes, I think, that must be cool. And being around professional sports, maybe getting tickets to a game, great seats, right? Sometimes getting a behind the scenes look at professional sports. Of course, we know there's always two sides to the story, right? But what might seem cool on the outside looking in, maybe not quite the reality. So when I was introduced to today's guest, I knew he was already successful and a rising star in this business. But when I saw that he played professional football, that added a new dimension to what I thought might be a fun interview. Walter Stith played his college football at Western Michigan University. He must have been pretty good because he went on to play with the Buffalo Bills and then with the BC Lions in Canada. Walter was an offensive tackle who protected the quarterback's blind side, just like that movie Blindside. Now, as a financial advisor based in Atlanta, ranked by Forbes as one of America's next-gen advisors, Walter helps his clients protect their financial blind side. So, Walter Stith, welcome to Top Advisor Podcast.
Bill, thanks so much for having me today. Glad to be here.
Yeah, great to have you, man. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So, Walter, there's two things I want to discuss, two main things at least. First, for any advisor who's seeking to work with professional athletes, what they should know about the target market, the pros, the cons. I'd also like to hear a little bit about how you work with your clients, how you protect them from their financial blind side. So tell us a little bit about how, your path to go from wearing sweats to wearing suits.
So I played in the NFL, I started out with the Cleveland Browns. I was an undrafted priority free agent coming out of college. That means I did not get drafted and I did not get a signing bonus. But I was in the NFL. So I started with the Browns, played for the Buffalo Bills for 2 years. And after my rookie season with the Buffalo Bills, I took an internship with Citigroup Smith Barney in New York City. The NFL has several different programs for players to participate in, one of them being the internship program. And because I majored in finance in school, I knew that I wanted to work on Wall Street in some capacity, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I took an internship, went to Citigroup Smith Barney in New York City in Times Square. And that was such a change of my day-to-day life and lifestyle. But it was a really wonderful experience, right? Being a professional athlete, as an athlete, my day would start 6 a.m., wake up, go to the facility, get a workout in, and then I'd have a team meeting and then a group meeting with the offense and then positional meetings. And then we may have some sort of walkthrough and then we'd have practice and then there'd be more meetings, maybe a visit to the training room, any bumps or bruises taken care of. I'd get dinner, watch some more film, come back in the next day and do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so transitioning from that lifestyle to waking up again in New York City. I have an aunt that lives in the Bronx, right near Yankee Stadium. So I was fortunate enough to be able to spend a lot of time at Jesse. But again, it was similar. Wake up at 5 a.m., jump on the subway at 6 a.m., head down to Manhattan. I'd grab myself coffee and bagel on 52nd Street, go up to my office, read the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, log into my Bloomberg system, meet with my advisors that I was working with at the time, who I was interning under, two of which I'll mention them. One, her name is Carol Glazier. At the time, she was Forbes top 100 women wealth advisors, and the other was Rob Schmidt. And he was a younger advisor. And the manager in that branch put me with those two advisors so that I could see the two perspectives of one, a successful, well-established advisor, mature book of business, and then that of someone who was new in the business and who was growing, right? Who's going out, hitting the pavement, dialing for dollars, cold calling, sending emails, just multiple marketing campaigns to bring in new business, so that I understood that you don't just come into this business and get on the Forbes list. And actually, in working with Carol Glazier, I set the long-term goal then, although I knew I was still playing football, that one day that I would be awarded as Forbes top wealth advisors. And I've done that the past 3 years with the Forbes Next Gen ranking. So it was a great accomplishment for me to see that come to fruition and to know that it was something that I thought about like long ago when I was just an intern in the NFL internship program.
So let's fast forward a little while. You finish up your pro career, you become a financial advisor. Somewhere in there, you make a decision to work with professional athletes. Kind of makes sense. That's your quote unquote natural market, as they call it. Talk to me about the benefits. What's great about working with pro athletes. Obviously, the money can be pretty good. We know that a lot of them are not getting good advice. We all know that some of them, lose the money that they've earned, their signing bonuses, et cetera, quickly if they aren't getting the good advice. So tell us about that. What it's like, the fun, the benefits, and then we can shift from that and we can talk about any of the downsides or the cons, if you will, about working with professional athletes.
So, working with professional athletes, I know what they're going through because I've been through it before. Right? I have experience from being a player, but as well as being an advisor to players that have gone through this process, and knowing that they need to think about the end at the beginning. And many times you look at the average age of players going into the NFL, they're anywhere from 20 to 23 years old. Mm. And a lot of times, Bill, this is their very first job. Mm. So think about it. If you're growing up, right? I don't know if did you have a job in high school, Bill?
Oh yeah. My first job was pumping gas at a gas station and many other jobs since then.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
right.
So you probably pump gas at a gas station in the summertime, right? When you're out of school. Mm-hmm. And so for a blue chip athlete, their summers are spent going to different camps and playing in 7-on-7 leagues or playing AAU or working out with a trainer. And so they just haven't had the time to commit to having a job outside of sports, because sports is presented to them as their job. Like, this is your job. This is what you're going to do. That's going to help you to earn a scholarship, go to school, and have the potential to go pro. Mm-hmm. So let's just say, for instance, I don't know what the percentage is, but many of them go through high school, never having a job. They get recruited by all the top colleges in the country. So schools are, presenting the best that they have to offer to these athletes to get them to come to school. They go to school, they receive a scholarship. School's paid for. They don't have to worry about taking out loans or going into any debt. And now student athletes can get paid off of their own name, image, and likeness. Mm-hmm. And so before name, image, and likeness, guys would go to school, and then they're either their junior or their senior year, if they have had a career good enough to establish themselves as an NFL prospect. And there's several different lists and services out there and scouts that, put out lists on who the top players are and who to look out for the upcoming draft. Now, keep in mind, these are guys who have never been employees. They've never filled out a resume. They've never gone on a job interview. They've never paid anything into Social Security. But then they have been put in a position where they have agents, financial advisors, marketing managers, public relations managers, all reaching out to them so that they can hire them. So in that sense, they are employers before there are employees. Mm.
Interesting. Yep.
Right? They go right into a field where they're getting their first job, but their actual first job is to be a CEO, right? A CEO of themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're out and they're hiring an agent, and an agent's job is to really help them throughout this process, right? To educate them on, what's coming next. Because many times they don't know. They know, hey, there's a draft, but what happens between my last college football game and hearing my name called at the NFL? Mm-hmm. There's many different things that happen between the last season and actually getting on an NFL team. And so having an agent or having an advisor, someone who has experience in working with that, can help them with that process to help them prepare. Imagine, Bill, if your first job, the minimum was $720,000. That'd
be nice, huh? It'd be daunting, confusing, perhaps even.
Daunting, right? It can be daunting. And so the fact that we think that is daunting, for professional athletes, in their mind, this is the norm because they haven't had another job. So their first job is making well over six figures at a minimum as a rookie. And that's their very first job. So the challenge there is not understanding the ramifications, or not even understanding how much money it is, or how much money it isn't, Bill, depending upon their own personal situations. Given, all right, you make $720,000 your rookie season. Let's say you're 20 years old. The average career in the NFL is 3.5 years. So let's say you make that for 3 years, you make $1.5 million, $1.8 million. Maybe you take home 900, $1.1 million, $1.2 million, but you're still young. And you have to transition into something else, because if you're done with the NFL at, let's say, age 25, you've still got a long life to live. And so the challenge is getting young athletes to understand that you can't live the lifestyle of somebody of the average person that makes $720,000, who is well established in their career. Maybe they're in their 40s or their 50s, right? And they've had time to build up to that. When you get that right out of the gate and that's your first job, you really don't appreciate it as much, or know that you need to appreciate it to save for life after football, because there's going to be a transition no matter how long you play. Even if a guy plays for 10 years and they're done, what I'm trying to get them to understand is, all right, how do you take the things that you value? These are the things that are important to you, right? Now let's define why they are important to you. And we'll use the example of family. So if it's a young guy who, at the time, many of these guys aren't married, right? But they may have a girlfriend, and then eventually they'll end up getting married, and then they'll have kids. And so now they have a family. All right, your family is important to you as a man. You have to take care of your family, right, by providing the basics of life: food, clothing, and shelter, right? And so food, clothing, and shelter, they all cost. And if you don't have money to provide for your family, something that you value, right? You have to get them to understand that at some point football is going to end and your cash flow is going to stop. So the money that you make and the checks that you get on a constant basis are going to stop. And then you have to transition to something else that's going to then create cash flow and income for you to continue to provide for your family. And sometimes it can be challenging because they're so young that they only can see the things that they want now, right? There's like, oh, I want a nice car. I want a nice house. I want all the things that I've never had before. I want to shop at, high-end retail. I want to eat at the finest restaurants. And how do they get introduced to these things? It's through the recruiting process, right? Yeah, you go sit down with agents, and they're taking you to, the steakhouses, and they're bringing your family. And, before you pick an agent, you're probably meeting with several agents, several financial advisors. So you just getting wined and dined. And then it creates the habit of going out to, high-end restaurants all the time. Mm-hmm. And many times when you're young, when your meals are all being prepared for you in college, right? Because we had a meal plan, so we weren't really cooking much. So just to get to the point of being able to cook food at home and not eating out for every meal, And technology doesn't help with this because literally you can just Uber Eats or Grubhub or, any of the food delivery apps to get it delivered right to you. And Bill, as you know, that's expensive. It costs, right? It costs a lot. That's a really expensive lifestyle to have every meal prepared for you.
So is that Walter, is that the biggest challenge that you're facing then is just these habits and expectations they've developed? And kind of trying to break them a little bit of that habit, or is it the other people in their lives, or maybe a combination of that be it people they grew up with, or be it other people they've met along the way with the business deals and the this and the that and all the temptations, invest your money here. What are, for you as the advisor, what is not so much for them, that is a challenge, but for you as the advisor, what's the biggest challenge in working with these folks?
I would say sticking within the budget.
Getting them to
all those. Yeah, just getting them to stick within a budget, right? If we say we're going to spend X amount of dollars or less per month, then do that, right? Because if you put together a financial plan, and the base of what my team does and working with our clients is financial planning, right? Mm-hmm. We want you to, know how much you have, right? Know how much you make. We want you to be able to save, save as much as you can, and also be able to invest that for your future. Gotcha. And one of the biggest challenges is controlling their lifestyle. And there are many stories out there. We've seen the 30 for 30 documentary. Mm-hmm. There's several examples of professional athletes and entertainers who has wasted their money. Whether it's family and friends, whether it's bad investments, whether mm-hmm. it's, just exorbitant lifestyles. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes there's the mental health aspect that comes in. A lot of people are talking about mental health now. And mm-hmm. When you look at the demographic, the every demographic of the NFL, right? It's, I would say 75% African-American. And if you're looking at just that portion of the NFL and you're thinking about the backgrounds that they come from mm-hmm. and thinking about economic inequality and thinking about the challenges that their parents have faced and their grandparents have faced mm-hmm. And thinking about the wealth gap that is there. Mm-hmm. And so many times, a lot of athletes, especially those that come from situations that they have been affected by the wealth gap, the racial wealth gap, guys can't really establish their future because they're going back with the money that they have to fill the gap for their parents, for their grandparents, right? Yeah.
Real quick, Walter, I wanted to ask you about the, like you said, the name, image, likeness, the new deals that are happening on the college level. Have you gotten involved in those at all? Have you been working with any college level athletes to help them with their financial? Some of these folks, these guys and some gals are getting a lot of money from the NIL. Most aren't yet. Have you done any work in that area yet?
I have. Yeah, I'm actually working with an athlete that is making money through name, image, and likeness. Mm-hmm. And there are challenges there. So you take the same graphic of athletes and now they're 17 years old. Now they're 17 and 18.
Crazy.
Right. And they're making all those same decisions where one with NIL, many times they're either getting paid through an endorsement mm-hmm. or they're getting a brand deal where they're creating their own products, right? Where they're using their name to create a brand, to attach it to a product and sell to their followers and fans.
Right. I mean, now the jerseys with their name on it, they can be compensated for that, right? Before it was just, hey, I got a jersey with the starting point guard or the quarterback or whatever name on. That's cool. But now that person can actually be compensated for that, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is quite a change.
And so, yeah. And then you still have all those same challenges of, all right, so how do I get paid? Do I set up some sort of business entity? And what type of entity do I set up? Do I set up a limited liability corporation? Do I set up an S Corp, a C Corp, a partnership? Do I need to hire a marketing manager, a financial advisor? what do I do with taxes? How much money can I make without it affecting my financial aid that I may be receiving?
Mm-hmm.
So many different questions.
Yeah.
There are pros and cons with name, image, and likeness. The good thing about it is, hey, now student athletes can capitalize without being penalized by their universities and the NCAA. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I think
because I feel that.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's great, because, a school could have a 5-star athlete, a top potential NFL player, and they could put a T-shirt in the bookstore, and the bookstore will sell that shirt and make money on this player's name, image, and likeness, and they'd receive none of that. All right, given their own scholarship and their education is paid for, but it pales in comparison to the amount of revenue that some of these sports teams are generating for schools and universities.
Right. Absolutely. At the beginning of the show, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you work with some of your clients. And I know you have kind of a fun way to explain what you do, especially as athletes get the message. But first, let's take a quick 30-second timeout for a word from our great sponsor.
This podcast is sponsored by Proudmouth, the Influence Accelerators.
Proudmouth.
If you're like our clients, you want to spend more time educating people and less time selling. That's why we turn Main Street experts like you into trusted mainstream authorities. We help you amplify your influence over a growing audience of magnetically attracted fans who will chase you down instead. Visit proudmouth.com to learn more.
Be your own loud.
By the way, I offer listeners of Top Advisor Podcasts quite a few resources, all geared to help you multiply your best clients. Simply go to referralcoach.com/resources. That's referralcoach.com/resources. You're going to find a lot of great tools there, and make sure you sign up for our weekly tips so you'll be notified when our next podcast interview is, as well as lots of other ideas we'll send to you as we can. So today, again, my guest is Walter Stith, former professional football player, offensive tackle to be specific, now clearly a rising star, Forbes Next Gen advisor. And Walter, I know that you kind of have some fun, creative ways to protect your clients' financial blind side using some sports metaphors and other fun things. So not just, I think, for your athletes to get, probably all your clients find some fun in this. So talk about that just a little bit. What are some of the expressions, words, phrases? Give us a sense of how you have some fun and help people at the same time.
Yeah. So, being a former football player, in particular, I was an offensive lineman and I played left tackle. Okay. And there was a movie that was put out, I don't know how long ago, but The Blindside, Sandra Bullock, Michael Orr, we've all seen that story. So as a financial advisor and a former offensive lineman, my role is to protect my client's blind side as their left tackle. So that's one analogy that I use. And what does that mean, right? With having so many things to consider, so many things to think about, and this really kind of being your first job in most cases, it's education, right? And so what I'll tell guys is when you show up for a team, when you go to college, the first thing you get is a playbook. So when you get your first job, my job as your financial advisor is to give you a playbook. Your playbook is going to, in the beginning of your football playbook is your schedule of events, right? It's going to tell you what time you have to be at practice, who is running the practice, how many different sections of the team you have to go to, right? So there's your team meeting, there's your positional meeting, and then there's offense or defense or special teams. And so with your financial life, what you have to look at is, all right, you have a contract, which is going to tell you how much you get paid, when you get paid, what's guaranteed, and what could cause your contract to be null and void. Right. So first and foremost, we're looking at creating a playbook. So what I'll do is I'll get their contract from them or their agent, and I'll say, all right, you sign, and many times if you're a rookie, you'll sign a 4-year contract. And if you are a first rounder, you'll sign a 4-year contract. And then the team has the option to pick up a 5th year. So I will pull out all of the numbers from the contract, because out of all of the 29, 35 pages that are there, and I'll show them on a spreadsheet exactly how much their contract says they're going to make in their signing bonus, in their salary, any roster bonuses or workout bonuses that are there. And then we'll also track their endorsement income, money that they make outside of football with endorsement deals and things like that. Mm-hmm. From there, we'll take a look at what their potential withholdings are. And I'm not a CPA, so I do not give tax or legal advice. But as an advisor, can show you that, hey, this is the tax bracket that you're going to be in, and this is what you can expect from paying taxes based upon what you're going to make. Right. First step. So you got federal taxes, state taxes, you got Social Security, you got Medicare, you got, and also you have your 401k contributions or your 401k deferrals. Those are the things you really can't, you have no say over. These are things that you're going to pay regardless. And sometimes that's sticker shock when guys come out of school, and in many cases they're making over $1 million sometimes, and they see that they're going to pay over 500,000 or close to 500,000 of that in taxes and money they're not going to receive. There's some shock that goes there. Right?
They probably already spent the $1 million. They probably already spent $1 million in their head. Right. Yeah. And yet they're not even going to get $1 million.
Exactly. Right. They're like, all right, I got $1 million. I'm going to buy a house for $500,000. I'm going to get $100,000 car. Right. You know, I'm going to do this for my mom and my family. Yeah. And it's like, well, wait, you didn't even think about Uncle Sam. What about Uncle Sam? You got to take care of Uncle Sam. And they're like, who's Uncle Sam? I don't have an Uncle Sam. It's like, no, you have an Uncle Sam.
We all do.
We all have an Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
Right. So just kind of showing them that. Mm-hmm. And then putting together a budget, right? And so when you're putting together a budget, it's almost like setting up a team, right? So on a team, if you're looking at, you got your offense, you got your defense, and you have special teams. Mm-hmm. And each position on that team has a certain task, right, that they're supposed to take care of. So for instance, let's take the offensive line. The role of the offensive line is the foundation of your offense. It is to protect you. It is to, protect your quarterback, protect your running back, and to keep defenders from getting to the ball. That's the goal of the offensive line. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at finances, your protection is making sure that you have sufficient cash balances to take care of your day-to-day obligations, right? Whatever your annual budget is, you need to make sure that you have cash in the bank, cash deposits to, be able to take care of your expenses. And if you even go down a little bit further, the center is who snaps the ball to the quarterback, right? And so when the ball comes off the ground and goes to the quarterback, that is what I would consider a direct deposit, right? That's cash in the bank, right? So we can't mess up. First of all, let's not mess up the center QB exchange, right? By making sure
because there's no play. If there's a fumble there, there's no play, right? So
if there's a fumble there, there's no play, right? And Bill, let's think about the ways that there can be a fumble. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go back to a story when I was in the NFL. One of my jobs as a rookie in the NFL was to go upstairs and get the vets checks. And there's several jobs that you get as a rookie, depending upon what team you're on. You could be, bringing in breakfast on Saturday mornings for the vets. You could be helmets and shoulder pads. I'm sure you've seen that on some of the combine shows and Hard Knocks where, rookies just get tasked, right? You got to sing songs. It's like the initiation process. So my job was to go upstairs and get the vets checks on payday. So I would go up, get the checks, come down. And my rookie year, one vet said, hey, I want to motivate you. Take a look at my check. I'm like, oh, no, that's your check. That's your business. I don't want to do that. He was like, no, go ahead. Open it up. So I look at it, 5 figures. every week he gets, right? So he took that check, threw it at the top of his locker. And I'm 6'8", so I can see the top of his locker. He's got 3 or 4 checks up there.
Oh,
Bill,
God.
that is fumbling the play, right?
Yes,
Having checks sitting in your locker is a fumble on the center QB exchange, right? The prudent thing to do would be is to have your money directly deposited into your account so that you don't have
fumble.
the risk of losing a check,
right?
Fumble on the playbill, right? So that's one example that I use.
Right. This is great.
Make sure
Give me one. We're nearing our end here, but just give me one more. Give me one more, fun metaphor, because we could probably play with this all day long.
Another example, right? Another example is when thinking about making an investment choice and having them to understand the levels of risk. So I'm going to use a basketball analogy here, right? So when I'm explaining to them, the different types of investments, like what is a stock? What is a bond? Right? What is equity? What is fixed income? Right? What is cash? What are cash alternatives? So when you think about basketball, a slam dunk or a layup is something that I would consider cash or a cash alternative, either a CD, a money market. There's very low level of risk there. It's, as you say, a layup, right? And so when you start thinking about, all right, well, what is a bond? Bond may be a 3 to 5 foot jumper, right?
Less likely to miss, possible miss, but a little less likely.
But
right? Yeah,
it's a 3 to 5 foot jumper. It's high likelihood that you're going to make that shot. You shot it over and over again. It's a fundamental part of the game, right? That's your fixed income, right? So when you think about equities, and then there are different equities, right? You got different indices. You got the S&P 500. You got large cap, mid cap, small cap, right? And so the analogy there is the further you go out from the free throw line, the more risk you're taking, all right? So when you get into like really risky investments, right? That's more like taking a half court shot or taking a full court shot, right? And on the football side, Bill, right? Here's another analogy that I use on the football side, right? Your running backs are, running backs are going to get you good 3 to 5 yards, right? Each play. So a running back is a solid, maybe a solid large cap stock value, right? And you think about growth, you might want to get a little bit more yards per play. So that could be a wide receiver or a tight end, right? A small cap, we'll just call that a small cap IPO could be considered a kick returner, right? Kick returners can do one of two. They could do several things.
They could fumble the ball.
They could fumble the ball, right? And if you look at the statistics of like startup companies, right, many of them do just fumble the ball, but some of them can fumble, pick it up, and score a touchdown. Right?
True.
So those are some of the fun analogies that I use with positions in either basketball or football to kind of explain the different types of securities and planning. And guys get it. They understand it.
I see a book here, Walter. This could be this could be a very fun way for anyone who loves sports, men, women, doesn't matter, just could appreciate this. So, with us today has been Walter Stith, former professional football player, now clearly a rising star in financial services, working with professional athletes, now working with college athletes and other wealthy individuals. I know that you're not just working with athletes and looking to do more of that as well. So, Walter, thank you for being on Top Advisor Podcast. Really do appreciate it.
Bill, thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed spending time with you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on your platform. Thanks so much for sending your books, Radical Relevance. Right. I am digging into that, picking up some notes there to get myself up to these owners.
Good. Yeah, there you go. That's the next. That's the next step. So, look, everybody, if you haven't already done so, head over to referralcoach.com/resources to sign up for our weekly tips and a ton of free guides. This is Bill Cates reminding you that ideas do not make you more successful. Only acting on those ideas will bring you the success that you want. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the Top Advisor Podcast. brought to you by Proud Mouse Pod Rocket Academy. I encourage you to visit my website, referralcoach.com, for links to my books, online courses, and to register for the Cates Academy.